Okay, good morning. Today, we're looking at analyzing data with specific attention to mean, median, mode, uh, box and whisker plots as well, and range also. All right, so I got some definitions. I'm going to put these up here. I'm going to write these down, understand them. Certainly don't have to be able to, recite them, but I would like you to be able to understand them and use them. All right. So, mean, median, mode, and range. So mean is like the average. It's when you add up the numbers and divide by how many there are. Okay. So I'll give examples after this in the real problems. Median, if you arrange the numbers from smallest to largest and find the middle number. If there are two numbers in the middle, add them together and divide by two. So find the average of them if there's two of them in the middle. And that's the median, the middle number. Mode is the number that shows up the most in the data. You can have more than one mode, or you can have no mode if there's no numbers that repeat. Range is the difference between the largest number and the smallest number. And a couple other ones here are outliers. Outliers is data that's significantly different from the rest of the data in the set. Okay. Quartile, a quarter of your data. Use medians to find the four quarters. Break up your data into four parts. Find the median and then the median of the median. Anyway, I'll show you how to do that. And the last thing is interquartile range, something they like to put on tests sometimes. This is the difference between the first and the third quartiles. So you find those two numbers and then subtract them, and that's your interquartile range. Fancy words. All right, so that's some of the stuff we'll be going through today, and I'll get to box and whiskers at the end. All right, so first, the data below is the heights of the teachers in the building in inches. Find the mean, median, mode, range, and asking are there any outliers. All right, so first thing that's usually helpful with a lot of these is if you organize the data smallest to largest. So let's say I take the smallest number here. I got a 60, I got a 61. In fact, I got two 61s. I got a 64. I got a 65. Any others in the 60s? Nope. And then I'm going all the way up to 70 next. 74, 76. Make sure I got the right number of numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. All right. So mean. Mean is what I get when I add up those numbers and then divide by how many there are. So there are 8 numbers. So if I add up all of these numbers here, I will find out what I'm going to divide by. So if you add up all those numbers together, you get 531, and there are 8 of them, right? 8 numbers, 60, 74. So you divide by 8, and you get your mean of 66.375, and that's your mean or the average, okay? These are all called central tendencies. So, depending on how you're trying to represent the data, you might want to pick one or the other. If I said, what's the central tendency of the height? If you wanted to make it seem like everybody's really tall in your building, you pick the biggest number and say, that's the one you want to go with. And if you wanted to make it seem like people are short in your building, you pick the smallest one. And any of these could be considered a central tendency. All right, median. Median's the middle number. All right, so I have 8. So this is, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means I got 4 on this side and I got 4 on this side, which means I've got 2 numbers in the middle. It's those 2 there, okay? The 64 and the 65, which means if there was only one in the middle, that would be the median. But if there's 2 of them, you add them together and divide by 2, and that's my median. So 64 and a half. The mode is the one that shows up the most frequently. So since I have 2 61s, that's my mode, which is certainly not near the middle, really. Range would be the biggest number minus the smallest number. which is 16. And the last thing is asking about outliers. So a number that's statistically different from the rest. So these are in inches, right? Which means this is the height. So if I took 6 feet, 12 inches in a foot times 6 feet is 72 inches. So the tallest person here is 7'4", okay? Which is tall, but it's not like, oh my gosh, tall. So I wouldn't consider that an outlier. 60 inches is the smallest, and that's 5 feet. And that's short, but that's not like, holy crap short either. So I would say no outliers here. A good outlier would be if we were talking about heights, for example. We got all these teachers in the building, right? And then the center for the Boston Celtics walks in, right? Who's like 7 feet tall. That's an outlier, all right? That's somebody who's statistically big. If you happen to have somebody in your school who is, 4'2", that would be an outlier also, just on the small, short range. All right. So anyway, that's what we consider outliers. There is ways statistically to calculate that stuff, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. All right. Next. So I would like you to try this one. All right. This is you try. I just did the last one. This is the same kind of thing. I'll walk through the answers in a minute or two. But I want you to do this. Hit pause, please, and do it on your own. See if you can come up with the 4 things. 5, actually, if you count any outliers. Okay. Okay, so these are the answers. I think they're mostly pretty straightforward. Finding the median, I've got 7 numbers altogether, which means I got 3 above the 11 and 3 below it, means the 11 is the median. Range is 22 minus 16. No mode. No mode because no numbers repeat, right? There's no. If I had 2 11s, that would be the mode then, or 2 6s, that would be the mode. Outliers. There is an outlier here. Size 22 foot is, you don't bump into those people very often. They're just very rare. I mean, I think, most 14 wouldn't be an outlier because there's a lot of people that have a size 14 foot these days. But 22, man, that's an outlier. That's a huge foot. That's like, clown feet kind of big, all right? And that's probably a very big person also. Anyway, so number 3, use the data below to find the quartiles and then find the interquartile range. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to organize these from smallest to greatest. 14, 15, 16. Next one after that is 20, 22, 26, 27, and 28. Double check to make sure you got all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm good. Okay, now so I find the median first. Okay, first I find the median, and this will be called Q2 for quartile 2. All right, so this is the median right here, which would be, if I average those together, a little bit, 20 plus 22, and average them is 21. Okay. So that's my Q2. And to find the first one, you take the median of these 4 numbers. Okay, so now I know where the top half of the data is, the bottom half of the data, and I'm going to find the medians of both of those. So the median of these 2 will be in between the 15 and the 16, right? 15 is 15 and a half. Over here, the quartile, and that would be Q1 for first quartile. Q3 is going to be the median of the top half of the data, which will be when I average the 26 and the 27. which is 26 and a half. Okay, so now, so those are the quartiles, the four quartiles, right? Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. There's usually smaller numbers at the bottom. Anyway, now the interquartile range is what you get when you subtract Q3 and Q1. 26.5 minus 15.5 will give me my answer there. So that's 11. Okay. And there's that. Okay. So there's the first part of the lesson there. We're going to get into box and whiskers next. Today I'm going to be looking at box and whisker plots. And a quick thing about box and whisker plots, this is a common one. It's a way of looking at data, and it's a not very specific way, or I should say maybe it's so specific that there's stuff that you can't read. It breaks up the data into four parts, okay? It does medians over and over again, really. I'll show you more about that in a minute, but it tells me that 25% of my data falls between those part of those numbers, between 50 and 100 in this case. It tells me that 25% falls between 40 and 50 of whatever this happens to be, which I didn't even say. And 25% fall between there and there with 10 and 20. And last but not least, 25% fall between 20 and 40, all right? So it's called a box and whisker because it's got boxes, and these things here are the whiskers. That's why it's called that. But it breaks up your data like that into quartiles is what it's called. Quarters, really. Quarters for quartiles. So it's 25% for each, which means the median would be right down the middle there where this line is. I'll make it a green line. That's that right there. That black line in the middle, that's the median, okay? And I'm going to get more into this right now. So I wrote down a couple questions. What's the median of the data? Well, the median would be that line right there in the middle of the box, or it's not always in the middle, but it's rough. This one happens to be close, which means that's 40, okay? 40 whatever. I didn't specify what this data is. It could be test scores, hopefully not test scores if the median's of 40, but anyway, you get my idea. What's the maximum and the minimum? The maximum will be the biggest number of the data, which I can tell you right now is that one at the end of the whisker, which would be 100. The minimum would be the smallest one, which would be down at that end, which is 10. So the maximum is did I say 100? Yeah, 100. And the minimum is the 10, all right? So there's the biggest number and the smallest number. And it says, what's the first quartile? The first quartile will be this number right here, which in this case is 20, all right? And we'll get more into how you calculate that in a little bit. But that's that one right there. First quartile is 20, and the third quartile will be the other end of the box, which is 50, okay? So that's 50. All right, so there's some basics with it, okay? Now I'm going to take this bunch of data right here. The question says, what is the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile for the data? All right, and I got some pieces of data here. So it's all about median, all right? And median, if you've forgotten, is middle number, okay? The middle number. Okay, not the average. You don't add them up and divide by how many. That's mean. That's totally different. We don't use that at all with this, okay? So median's a middle number, which means I'm going to go put these in order, okay? I'm going to rearrange them, and I want them to go from smallest to biggest. So I'm going to go 75 is the smallest, and then I got 80, and then I got 125, and then I have 126, and then I have 135, and I already did these out. I'd probably take a little more time and show you, but I'm sure you all can order numbers from least to greatest. Okay, so there they are. The median. So I got, let's see, I got 4 over here, and I got 4 over here, which means my middle number, there's no middle one. Like if this was an odd number of pieces of data, there would be one in the middle, you know? In this case, I got 4 on each side. So my median is going to be, actually maybe I should keep those there. There we go. All right, my median is going to be the average of the 2 middle ones because there's 2 in the middle. So my median will be 126 plus 135 divided by 2, okay? And when you punch that into your calculator, you get 130.5 equals the median. Okay, so there's my middle of the box. All right, we'll get to making a box and whisker in a little bit. Q1 is the first quartile, which means I'm going to take the middle number of these numbers right here. Change over to purple for a second there for Q1. Might make this easier. I'm looking for the median of the first half of the data. All right, what's the median of these 4 numbers? Well, once again, I got the 2 in the middle, so I'm going to go 80 plus 125 and divide by 2. And when you do that, you get 102.5 will be Q1, okay? All right, now Q3 is going to be the median of the top half of the data, okay? In this case, it's orange here. This one's nice, oh, I like this one. Q3 is the median of this half of the data, the top half, which means there's 2 numbers in the middle, but the nice thing is they're the same, which means if you add 140 plus 140 and divide by 2, you get 140. Obviously, the Q3 will be 140, okay? So you don't have to average 2 numbers that are the same because it's just that, okay? All right, next. I need the maximum and the minimum. This is nice and easy. The minimum is the smallest number in the data. The maximum will be the biggest number in the data. I shouldn't use blue, I already got that going. Green. My maximum, okay? So I'm gonna write down these, I got these numbers written down right here. And now I'm going to make a box and whisker plot. Okay, I need my box and whisker plot, and I'm not going to be exact with this at all. I'm sure if you look at a MCAS test or something else, that'll be. I got other ones that are much nicer and neater. I need it to go from 75, and I need it to go up to like 350. And I'm not going to be perfect with this at all. I know I'm also going to need the 102.5, so I'm just going to put it here. Okay, ballpark. This can be 130.5. I need 140 also. Okay, so I'm just going to list my number line. You could do a much better number line than that. You get the idea. So when I make my box and whisker next, I'm going to put, sometimes I have a dot there. This will be the whisker. It'll go up to there. The other whisker goes on the right side and starts at 350 and it'll go down to the 140, which is the Q3. Okay, so I'm using these numbers here so far, all right? And then between Q1 and Q3 is the box, okay? So between the 102 and the 140, I'm gonna make my box here, okay? This is the box, and I'm gonna connect them. And then down the median goes that middle line, okay? So I can tell exactly where the halfway point of that data is. So there's 50% above 130.5 and there's 50% below 130.5. And that's your box and whisker, okay? So that is that one. All right, I'm gonna have you try a quick you try. Okay, so number 7, I'm going to have you try. I want you to find the maximum, the minimum, the median, Q1, and Q3. Then make a box and whisker for the data. And I just gave you 6 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you can take those 6 numbers, the first 6 numbers, and do a box and whisker for me. Find the median, find the first quartile, the third quartile, the maximum, the minimum, and quick draw it on a number line with a box and whisker, okay? And that will be your you try. Okay, and with that, I'm going to close it out with a little bit more music. Have a great night.